Good morning. I thank you all for coming this morning because I know I've struggled to get up in the mornings for other keynotes, so that you came today is awesome. I'm used to wearing a mic, not holding one, so I'm hoping that this goes well for me. I'd like to just check in with everybody here and see who here has experienced having a bad leader. Yes. Who's experienced having a good leader? That's great. Who here has been a bad leader? I have. I learned. This is really near and dear to my heart. I looked at the common thread of my career, and for me, it always came back down to leadership, whether I was in a leadership role or not, how to espouse that and encourage that in the people that I work with. And now I work exclusively in that domain around some of the Agile coaching and training that I do, but I help to develop and cultivate leadership within each person because we all have that inside of ourselves. So with that said, I'm going to admit 3 things to you right now. I was very, very nervous about today. It's the biggest group I've spoken in front of. I hardly slept at all last night because my brain would not shut off. 2, until last night, I really didn't know what I was going to talk to you about exactly. I know I wrote a proposal, and I talked about leadership and Agile, and I threw something about Richard Branson in there. That's still going to be in here. But there was some really great keynotes this week, and there's a lot of common threads I found, and those common threads happen to be in my talk too. So last night I decided I'm going to try an experiment today with you here and mix it up a little bit and still cover my same topics. And 3, there was a third, right? The third being leadership. It's not just about showing up at work and being a leader. It's about how to be a leader in your life. Right? The best leaders that I've worked with are stepping up and leading in their lives as well. So I'm going to talk really personally about some things in my own life as well as experiences on the job with clients and my own experiences personally. And I'm going to try to weave those things together because I think it's important to understand that while there's things that are happening at work that can be really awesome and great, like my career right now is pretty awesome. Personally, we might be going through some really challenging things. And how do you step forward and lead that? Through your company, wherever you're working, while you're, maybe in chaos yourself personally. I spoke at Test Bash New York last week and gave a keynote, and I tried an experiment there. And that one was to just share the highlights of my journey from 2001 when I started my career in test, and all the way through to 2009, 2010 when I left test roles officially. And it was just sharing the highlights, my successes, and my failures. And surprisingly, people really, really liked it. I think people like to know that they're not alone in experiencing failures and experiencing pain. And so hopefully that resonates for you today, too. So I do a lot of different things. My box that I work in is not small. It's very large. What I love most about what I do is that I'm able to work with people to help them to kind of light the fire within themselves. So one word that I use for myself is soul igniter, because I have a love and a joy for connecting into the truth of each person. I don't hide that anymore. I used to, very much, and I'm owning that. The other thing is I'm a mom. This is my son, Christian, and I'm going to do an experiment with you right now. Christian was here with me last year at the conference, and he made a big impact with people. And for me personally, it was really special for him to be at a conference with me where I was speaking and he was able to engage. And unfortunately, he's not here this year, but he really, really wanted to be. So what I'd really love for you to do is, I'm getting this ready. I would really love it if you could just, on the count of 3, say hi, Christian, for me while I take a video. Because he's going to come back next year, but I want to give him this as a gift. So maybe he won't be mad at me for putting his photos on my slides. So on the count of 3, from Agile testing days, 1, 2, 3. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. So he's going to be featured a lot in today's talk. So, I'm going to start by asking you one question. If you could have dinner with any one person who is alive, who would that person be? And why? What one thing do you love about that person? And part of my experiment is going to give you 24 opportunities to be brave and stand up and share. So I have 24 opportunities. So I'd like to hear from 3 people. The first 3 people to stand up and get to share and be vulnerable with us today. Oh, I know. You're going to start standing up by the end of the talk. I do stuff like this all the time. It happens. Yeah, stand up. Share it. Just yell. Who and why?
Jerry Weinberg. Why? Because he's been a teacher of my teachers, teacher of many in our community. I met him at PSL, and I just love this. Spend my whole life talking to him.
Jerry Weinberg, because he rocks.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. Were you going to stand up?
Yeah. Noam Chomsky.
Noam Chomsky? Uh-huh.
Because kind of answered of one of my whys, how we can embrace passion for linguistic and software.
Embrace your whys around embracing passion for linguistics. Awesome. Cool. Thank you. You? Elon Musk.
He's an amazing businessman with vision, passion to give.
Vision and passion. Awesome. Thank you. My top 3. Richard Branson, the Dalai Lama, Elon Musk. Maybe Oprah Winfrey too. That list would be pretty long, especially if I included people not alive. Nikola Tesla would be another one. I do want to say, though, I nearly met Richard Branson. I was able to see him live. I was maybe from the back of the room to the stage away from him, and last February. So I was able to go to a very different sort of event and see him speak live, and that for me was amazing. It's one of the people that I've really admired in how he lives his life and how he works. So, he's done some really cool stuff, and it's not just about the companies and the money, but he's also a huge advocate in the humanitarian space, environmental space, and he's a big support of entrepreneurs. And I know there's just a lot of really cool stuff about him. So I'm going to ask you, what traits does he bring to mind? It's actually more than 24 opportunities. I forgot about this question. What traits does he bring to mind? Just yell it out. Vision?
Boldness.
Boldness? Mm-hmm. Sorry? Daring, yes. I heard dairy. What else? Having fun? Caring? That's a good start. Humor, yeah. There's a lot of great things about him, and the things that I really admire about him that I've really tried to espouse in my own life, as well as other people that I really admire. So I'm going to share with you what I've learned in my own life around leadership and what I've heard him say when I heard him speak. I'm not going to share his stories. I thought maybe I would, but I don't really have time. So you can read his books to hear his stories. But I'm going to share some clips, some nuggets that he shared through these shares. So the first thing that I learned personally was listen deeply. And does this count for meeting Jerry Weinberg? This is Jerry Weinberg. Who here knows who Jerry Weinberg is? That's a pretty good representation. I'm impressed. So I would put him in the bucket of father of computer software programming, humanitarian aspect for the computer industry. I was really privileged to meet him first in 2003 or 2004. And he's become a mentor for me for many years. And he really helped me to embrace listening in organizations. At the time I met him, I was trying to be a leader. I was given the title, and I was trying to lead by mimicking successful male leaders in my organization who weren't listening very well and who weren't taking care of people, but it seemed to be the successful path to take. And thankfully, I was able to meet him and some other people around that time. And, he just kind of sat me down and said, Selena, do you feel happy leading this way? And I said, no. He said, so why are you doing it? It's really important to just be who you are and embrace yourself, but also learn how to listen deeply to people that you're working with. So that's something that I carry through now when I'm working in companies that I go into that I'm coaching and consulting with. The very first thing that I do is listen. I ask people a lot of questions, and I just listen to what they have to say. I don't give them recommendations. I don't give them suggestions. I just listen. I hold space with them so that they feel heard. Because that is the first thing that I see in organizations is that people don't feel heard. When they don't feel heard, they don't feel safe, and they don't feel safe to experiment and go beyond what they're typically doing day to day. Make sense? Yeah. So I know for me personally, also recently, I've had some challenging things that I've been going through, and the best thing that people have been able to do for me is to just listen to what I have to say and just be with me. And sometimes they give really awesome hugs along with that. That helps too. I'm a hugging person, so I really, maybe you can give me hugs later, that would be awesome. And I actually, when I'm working on site with clients, believe it or not, I hug people. I ask for permission first, otherwise I could get in trouble, but I hug people because sometimes people just need to be hugged. And these are things that I do personally when I'm working with clients and with just people. Whether they're a client in a big company and I'm helping an Agile team to transform, or I'm working one-on-one with somebody to help them to grow in their leadership capacities, because I do both types of work. Holding space for people, that is fundamentally the most important thing that I've learned that I carry through all of the work that I do now, which has helped me to be successful, but has also really helped the teams that I work with to be successful. Richard Branson says this, a good leader must be a good listener. I fully agree. And this is one of the fundamental things that he does in his organizations, is he listens, takes a lot of notes, gets new ideas from people, and just is there hearing what people have to say so that he can act on those things. And it's one of the big 4 things that he talks about in one of his leadership books. Oops, I missed one slide. Or I lost a slide. Okay. Oh, no, there it is. So what I hear from you is what one way can you improve on collecting information and ideas? How can you be a better listener? In your context where you work right now. This is where I get 3 people who first stand up. You get to share. What specifically can you do in your organization to be a better listener? Yes, please.
Shut up.
Shut up. How is that going to help?
Well, if you shut up, you can listen. If you stop speaking, you can actually start hearing, I think.
Yeah. If you stop speaking, you can start hearing. Who else?
I would recommend not only just eyes, but listen.
Yes. Not just your ears, but your eyes. Yes. So to see what people are working on and let them talk through it. Yeah. Another thing that I like to do is just find a way to be really present in where I am. To be present allows me to be centered and grounded, to know exactly who I am and where I am, but also so that I can be really mindful about what's happening for the other person who's speaking or that I'm engaging with. A lot of us, we spend a lot of time actively trying to come up with responses to what people are saying and not just being present in what they're saying, which means we miss a lot of important information, whether it's a visual cue, or whether it's an emotion that might be coming through, or whether it's something much more tangible and real, practical. For spending our time thinking and trying to process, we're not actually being present with them. And This helps tremendously in Agile teams. So as a team member or as a leader in title or manager, the best thing that we can do is actually just stop and listen to the people that we're working with and hear what they have to say. Hey, is there any chance we can get that timer up so I know where I'm at? Thank you. Otherwise, suddenly the talk's going to be done and I'll be halfway through. The second thing is it's all about the people. This is fundamentally, for me, the most important thing ever. This is a team, half of a team that I led up until 2009. And I loved the people that I work with. Truly, truly love these people. And many of them are still my friends. And this has been the same for me no matter where I've gone. It was my job to take care of them, to provide them with a space and a container that was going to allow them to flourish and be successful. Whether it was providing them with new technical opportunities, new skills, or just having a monthly potluck because they wanted to hang out and have food together, or taking them out quarterly to hang out and have fun together, or just having high five celebrations to celebrate awesome stuff that they did. This department, my team grew to about 20 people in this company. The company size was 140. I had a significant portion of the company under my management, but I was a manager in title only. My job was to lead these people and to help them to flourish and be successful, and they were. And part of taking care of my people meant to nurture their growth and their needs and their career opportunities, which I did. The other thing that I did with this particular group, which was pretty awesome, was I got all of the testers paid on par with all of the programmers. I fought hard for them, and it happened. It was mind-blowing and amazing. Yeah, that was a pretty big deal. Like, I had to do like $20,000 salary jumps for some of them, but I made it happen because they were worth it. Some of these people, this person here, Matt in particular, they're all awesome, really. But Matt, he was a linguistics specialist, linguistics expert. And, he did amazing work. And he actually shifted into not just doing testing, but he joined an Agile team and started doing programming also. And that team actually turned into just a bunch of testers, ex-testers who programmed, and the whole Agile team was just people who used to identify just as testers, which was amazing. And they became actually one of the most successful teams in the company. And I'll talk more about that later, but so it really is all about the people. When we put care and attention into the people that we're working with, then they actually are there for you. They show up for you, and they will do anything to help make you and the team be successful. So I've been a manager before where I put the process and the project needs first, and we ran people ragged. And there's one of my failure spots where people were working 60-hour weeks, and it was awful for me. It was awful for them, and I learned some valuable lessons through that. And thankfully, I was able to shift things around in different locations. And so the work that I do now with leaders and organizations is how can we take care of the people first? Because when people are happy and in a joyful space and they love their work and they feel safe, they will do amazing things for you. Richard Branson also says, just make people smile. So whether it's the people that you work with or you're doing this through humor, you're doing this through fun and celebrations, whether it's with your customers, the people that you lead, the people that you work with. Our job is to make people smile, because when people are smiling, joy comes out, and people are open and they're creative. Amazing things happen. And celebrate often. Not just the big project releases, but everything, every day. What can you celebrate? So I'm going to ask you, realistically, in where you are at with your work right now, who can you improve your relationship with? This is, again, 3 people can stand up. Everybody. Okay. Who else? I'm really awesome at waiting, by the way. Yeah, and how could we do that? How can we do that? So talking and listening and, we're building relationships, right? We don't just work with robots or inanimate objects. We work with people. People have experiences, they have knowledge, they have personal lives, they have a whole lot of stuff going on. So we need to engage with them and understand what's going on for them. People are real. So let's show up and be real with them. Okay, I'll let you off this time, but honestly, next time, there's going to be 3 people. Be addicted to learning. So this is my son again. So my son Christian, he'll be 12 next month. He is on the autistic spectrum. I've had to constantly learn through my life with him and adapt. And one thing that I went into with him, 2012, I took him out of school and I homeschooled him for 2.5 years, because his needs were not being met at school and he needed more. So we did a lot of interesting learning activities. One was Swedish weaving. And we did a lot of other things. He was like learning how to make hooks with iron and chainmail. He did a lot of interesting things, constantly learning, which meant I was constantly learning. And for me, that's like amazing. I just love to learn as much as I can. But in our work environments, this is incredibly important too. It's so easy to get boxed into what it is that we're doing and what it is that we just do every single day, right? And sometimes it's scary to reach outside of that and to embrace new skills. So new skills that I've had to pick up at different points include learning everything about linguistics, because suddenly I was a manager for a team that did linguistics work. Boy, was that interesting. There's a lot more to it than I could ever imagine. I had to learn how to code after not coding for 10 years. When we're working in teams in a space, we need to encourage everyone to be safe to learn and to create a space for them to do that and encourage each other to stretch our limits and stretch our abilities, because in an Agile team, we need to be flexible and adaptable to what the needs are versus what we just want to be doing, right? So another Richard Branson quotes, if you're not failing on occasion, you're not really pushing your limits. So who here has experienced failure? Who liked experiencing failure? A few people, that's awesome. No, it doesn't feel very good at first. But we need to experience failure, honestly, because if we're not doing that, we're not challenging ourselves, we're not growing, we're not expanding, we're not becoming better at work, we're not becoming better as a person. For me, death is equivalent to never growing and changing in any way. That is like, just kill me now. I can't do it. And I've tried being stasis for periods of time. It doesn't work. I'm also terrified of failure, like mind-numbingly terrified. And which means I get stuck on creating things like presentations sometimes. But I recognize the importance of pushing my boundaries so that I can fail, so that I can learn and I can grow, whether I'm a member on a team or I'm actively coaching a team. So even as a coach, I go in and I say, hey, let's try an experiment. Let's see how this works out. Let's see how we can, pair these people up and create something new together. And it might fail, and that's okay. And I'm also very, very open with the people that I'm working with about my own failures, because it's important that they feel safe to experience their own. So, sometimes things happen where we have coaches come in to work with teams, or we have leaders working with teams who never admit their own failures. And I don't think that creates a very safe culture or a very safe space for experimentation and for stretching our limits and for having teams to grow. So this is a really important one. this is kind of cool. And it's true. Like, we don't follow rules learning how to walk or how to ride a bicycle. We just keep trying again and again and again. And at some point in our lives, we stop doing this. We stop feeling safe to do this. And why is that? So it's important to become mindful about where we're blocking ourselves or limiting ourselves so that we can kind of expand beyond that. So I'm going to challenge you, what new thing can you try today? Yes. Exchanging business cards at a conference. I might actually try that too. I'm really awful at it. I bring a stack and I never leave my pocket. Who else?
I'm going to practice some of my really bad German.
Practice your bad German. Awesome. One more person. Maybe I should have done the bravery slide first. Yes? Your first talk in English today. Congratulations. Awesome. I did something kind of similar to that, not in English. It was in English. I was speaking at Agile Brazil 2 or 3 weeks ago to a room full of people who spoke Portuguese, who could understand English, but if they concentrated really, really hard. That was an interesting experience, but it was so worth it, so good luck. Be of service. So during our homeschool days, one thing that Christian and I did, we volunteered at a local nonprofit organization. They grew food to support homeless people in the area. So all the profits went to support homeless. And that's the thing that was really near and dear to my heart. I grew up with really not a lot, welfare, getting food boxes, but 2 of my siblings have chosen to be homeless for periods of time in their lives. So to be able to do something to give back was really, really meaningful. And to be of service in a way where my son was joining me in that was just beautiful, because he showed up, he was excited to plant seeds and help things grow, feed the fish in the fish tank. And, I think it's important to find something meaningful to attach ourselves to. So not just outside of ourselves, outside of the work that we do, but also in the workspace. It's incredibly important. One thing that I've often done when I was actively involved with, as a test manager or a test leader, was to be of service to the other department managers. So I'd walk over to the programming manager and say, hey, what's going on for you guys? What challenges are you experiencing? How can I help make your life easier? It was pretty scary to ask them that, but they actually told me how I can help them, which is really cool. And in one case, I went from the manager who showed up and said, keep your testers away from my programmers. I'm like, we're supposed to be agile, but okay. But I just stopped and I used my listening skills and asked him, so what happened for you in your past that it doesn't feel safe for the testers to be in those meetings? And he kind of just stepped back and he looked stunned and said, how did you know? It wasn't about me, I knew that. It was about something else. So, we went from that space where we started an experiment just to have the testers sit in the meetings with them. And I said, we'll just do it for 1 week. I promise he won't say anything. So I threw my best guy in there. And I had worked with this fellow over 2 different companies. I hired him a couple of times. So I just said, hey, just show up and don't say anything. It's like, but I'm like, I know, but I know that you can build trust here, so just do it. And so we did. And then after the week, we checked in. I said, so how's it going? Can we experiment with another week? And he said, yeah, that was okay. So we did. Within 2 months, not only was my tester able to interact and pair with their programmers, but also contribute to design discussions and actively be a part of this Agile team. Within 3 months, that development manager was coming to me for advice on how to lead his staff better. It was a hostile to, yes, let's be friends situation with a matter of months. It was beautiful and amazing, but it started because A, I listened, and B, I went in with purely, how can I be of service? I had goals I wanted to get accomplished so that our work could be successful, but so the projects can be successful. But I made it about him and his needs, and it worked. So I do this now when I go into organizations and companies. How can I be of service to you? It's not my job as a consultant or a coach to tell you what to do. It's my job to help you figure out what your pain points are, help you to feel safe to talk about them, and then help you to feel safe to experiment and try to shift things. So I'm very much a service mindset individual. And the leaders that I see in organizations that are super successful, whether they're in title or not, they are very much the same way. They make it about everybody else. They don't sacrifice or compromise themselves or their values in any way, but they show up and say, how can I help you? So if we have people focusing on the right things, we can solve phenomenal problems together. We really can. And it's not just the problems that are happening in our organizations, it's problems that are happening in the larger world. Because the organizations that we work with, they have a larger purpose. They're trying to solve a bigger problem, right? Otherwise, why are we there? Why are we showing up every day? I'm going to ask you, what problem are you helping to solve? It could be something tangible and practical in your company right now, or maybe something on a bigger scale. So who'd like to share? Do you have problems to solve? Or is everything solved already? Yes. How to use all the brain power in the company. That's a big problem to solve. Unless there's not a lot of brain power. I don't believe that, though. Who else? What problem are you trying to solve? Lisa.
Trying to get a better shared understanding of the software, the features that we're trying to give our customers.
Better shared understanding of the software. There's someone from this side of the room. Hiring more team members. Thank you. It's awesome. It's important to know what problems we're trying to solve. We need to show up and be focused on trying to solve those problems, not just doing the daily work every single day, right? We're there for a purpose. The purpose attaches to a problem. We're there to help create solutions with other people. So know what your problems are. Flow through change. This was personally an interesting time. My son and I were in Costa Rica at the end of 2003. This photo was taken about 2.5 weeks after my son found out that his dad and I were separating. So that trip was interesting because he was kicking and screaming for quite a while about being in Costa Rica with me. And I'm like, you're in Costa Rica, buddy. This is pretty awesome. But it was a hard time for both of us. And we had to learn how to flow through change. We had to learn how to be adaptable and flexible, and that things aren't always the way that we think that they're going to be, right? So in organizations, we have to do this too. We have to be adaptable. I mean, the whole premise for Agile is that we're agile, which means we're adaptable and we're flexible, right? And I cannot tell you how many organizations I go into who still insist that it has to be done this way. We have to meet this deadline with these features, and that's what it is. I'm like, you're not agile. That's not what this is about. We have to create priorities and know what our focus is, what problem we're trying to solve is. We have to show up and be okay with that. Things are going to change, right? Who here feels like your process is just stuck and that it's not able to change? A few people. That's pretty good. I usually see more hands. Who feels that your Agile is not really agile? Yes, that's more what I expected. That's a lot of hands. And that's a common thing. So again, like what I often see happen in organizations as they adapt to Agile, they adapt waterfall under the guise of Agile. So they have all the new names and the terminology, but it doesn't work because it's not about the process. This Agile stuff that we're talking about and the things that I'm talking about today, these are the things that make Agile work. And this is really just about being a human being and working with other human beings. Right? Not being rigid in our thought process and how we do things and how we communicate things, how we work together, exactly what our responsibilities are. It's about being adaptable across all of those things and being okay to change. The change is a given. It's always going to happen. How you respond to change, that is your choice. It could be a reorg that's happening. It could be suddenly you have more pressure for things to get done, and you have to work in new ways, but you don't want to. You have to try new skills out that you don't want to do. It could be you have to work with somebody that you don't want to work with. I've had some of those people. As much as I love all people, sometimes I just can't work with some people. But how we respond is important. So it comes back to that at the start I mentioned being mindful and centered and grounded in yourself and who you are. That really helps you to make responsive choices versus reactive choices, and to step outside of how we tend to be operating in the teams and the people that we're working with, to adapt and try something different and try something new, to do just-in-time decisions versus significant upfront planning, right? So how can you be more easeful with change? Change will happen. You will go into chaos through some of it. It's just a given. But at some point, you come through that chaos out the other side, and you're able to adjust and change into something that's better than what it was for you before. What can you do? One thing. What is one thing that you can do to help yourself be more easeful with change? Yes? Try to relax and know that it's going to be okay. It will be okay. Yeah, who else? What's one thing that you can do? Yes? Being open to possibilities. So he's looking for work. If anyone's looking to hire awesome people, go talk to him. I can help support your change. One more person.
Well, it's something that you have just did. Is just look forward, be open for change, and lead the change, and look for supporters. So someone who will help us change change.
Get a supporter. Yeah, absolutely. Makes it a lot easier. The things that I do when I go through massive change is I meditate more. That's a really good one for me. So I can get clear and detach from the emotions, to get grounded and rooted again. I'm able to be more mindful about the choices that I make then. Other things that I do is I get supports. Whether I'm working in a company, I can use people there, or I can, connect with people personally as well. I've had some massive changes in my life recently. I moved in 5 days. I had a pet of 15 years die last week, and I had a relationship end suddenly 2 weeks ago. So, things are in flux right now, but it's okay. I am okay. I will be okay. But I have supporters. I know the things that I need to do to take care of myself, right? And change is a given. It's how we respond to it and how we deal with those things, right? So even if it feels like the world's ending, it's not. I sure felt like it, but I know it's not. This is just the way life is. And these things happen in companies too, where For instance, the end of 2007, 2006, somewhere around there, I was passed over for a promotion that widely believed that I very much deserved and earned. And then a yes man manager came in that role instead. And that was a massive change and very painful for me because I don't follow yes man. Do you know what I mean by that, yes man? Okay. That's not who I am. I don't follow that very well. So I ended up leaving that company because I kept making new positions for myself in the company, and he kept following me. I want a piece of your pie. I'm like, I don't care about the pie. I just want people to be happy. These things happen. How we deal with it is important. And being mindful to who we are and what's important to us, what our values are, is also important along with that change. Move through fear. Who here has fears? Really, some of you don't have any fears at all. Okay? I'd like to talk to you. So there's 2 photos here for me. This first one, I did Tough Mudder. Does anyone, who knows what Tough Mudder is? A few people. It's a really, 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 really long and hard obstacle race. There's a lot of physical challenge and a lot of mental challenges, like diving into an ice pool. This photo here was my most terrifying moment ever. It was running through along, like from this whole stage width long of live wires, 10,000 volts. I saw like these big, massive guys going through, and I saw them fall and pass out for like 2 seconds and then get up and kind of shake it off and run again. And I was like, yeah, there's no way. I'm not doing this. So I did this in August of this year. It's 17 kilometers, a lot of hills and ski hills and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I can deal with that stuff. I was in a lot of pain by the end, but I could do it. I can climb up stuff. I can dive in stuff. I can carry heavy things. Climb this height in the air on a wooden ladder with nothing attached to me. Scary stuff, but I did it. This was the very last one, the 35th obstacle. And I stood there at the end looking at it. Like, okay, I did the rest of the obstacle course. I'm still standing, but 10,000 volts. I cannot tell you how terrifying this was for me. I spent 10 minutes gearing myself up to do this. I nearly passed out 2 times gearing myself up to do this. I saw the medics walking towards me as I was gearing myself up to do this and nearly passing out. It was that bad. My friends were already on the other side, and they're just like, yeah, we thought you were going to just fall on the ground right there. But I did it. I plowed my way through somehow. I just said, okay, I can do this, and I will get through, and I did. I did get shocked. I didn't fall, but it was terrifying. And as was holding a tarantula. I did that in September, 3 weeks later. So for me, fear has been something that's held me back tremendously in my life, not just personally, but professionally as well. And I held myself back from contributing in ways that I could contribute effectively, contributing ideas that I knew would make a difference, just bringing new ideas forth or interacting with people or like stepping up to a senior staff member and saying, hey, we need to talk about this. Those are some of the ways that I've held myself back in my own career. And that's not just hurt me, it's hurt the people that I work with. So now what I do is I challenge myself to face my fears in my personal sphere as much as possible because it helps me to show up and be more courageous in doing things that seem really, really hard in the office. Sometimes I need to show up and tell a VP that, hey, your attitude or the way that you interact with your staff really sucks. I say it much nicer than that. But that's scary for me because I'm risking my client. I have to learn how to say things in ways that is able to be heard by people, and it is not going to totally hurt me, but it also helps them to grow in some way or helps them to move forwards, right? Believe it or not, holding a tarantula is one of those things that actually helps. And just for the record, I'm terrified of spiders. Like, I see a spider over there, I will walk the other way. Yeah, but these things, it's important. We need to learn how to face our fears and how to apply this into our work situations. Richard Branson again. The brave may not live forever, but the cautious do not live at all. So how can you show up and live, really live at work? Not just show up and earn a paycheck. Because when you show up and you are really there and you're present and you're all in, no matter what the outcome is, then you can achieve phenomenal things with the people that you're working with. So what are you avoiding, or what are you scared of? This is share time again. Yes?
Talking to my CEO about how shitty I would find that KPI.
Talking to your CEO about how really shitty you would feel about the KPI measure?
Agile KPI measurements.
Okay.
Scary. KPIs are scary, and I'm scared of talking about it.
Yeah. So you just get them to watch the video, and now you don't have to have the conversation. Thank you. Who else? What else? Who's scared of something right now? Yes. Conflict. Yeah, I avoided that most of my life. Conflict is scary. Yes. One more person. Maybe you want to stand up and say you're scared to stand up. Right. Yeah, affecting other people with decisions. Yeah. So you were going to add something. We can have a number 4. Janet.
I'm scared of playing those dumb dice games.
Scared of the dice games. I was scared of those too. It's terrifying. Like, oh my God, people are going to know that I'm not smart. Yeah, and freezing on the spot with something like that is different than not being smart. I didn't know that though. Follow your joy. This was from September. I've had a really active and busy year this year. One of my cousins got married. This is me, my brother, and a cousin, and my sister. And for me, my family and my friends are a huge source of joy for me. And even though I've been at home 50% of the year this year, yes, 50, I spend a lot of time connecting with them because they are part of my joy. And there's other things that I'm really joyful about too, but, it's like coming home again and being embraced in a big warm hug. But I believe it's really important in the work that we're doing that you're following your joy there. I've been the person who's just gone to work and gone through the motions and making things happen because they have to happen. And it sucked the life out of me. Especially when I did it 60 plus hours a week for a very long time. It sucked me dry. I hit burnout, and then I hit depression, and I had to work my way out of that stuff. I think it's fundamentally critical that everyone that is working, period, I don't care what it is that you do, we find something to be joyful about. And if you can't find joy there, you either create it with the people that you're working with, or you find another place to go where you are going to have joy, right? You spend a third of your life working. Why the heck would you choose to not be in joy? What's the point? You're not here just to earn a paycheck and get to your death and then maybe have some stuff to give to your family members when you die. That's not the point. The point is to do something cool and enjoy yourself as you're doing it. It's quite an experience and a journey if you choose to embrace that. So the teams that I've worked with and have been the most successful, wildly successful, where their executives rave about them, where their customers are raving about them, they follow their joy in the work that they do every single day. They show up and they're all in and they're excited and they're having fun. There's energy in the room. They're trying new things all the time. And they're collaborating. They care about each other. They form those connections. And this happens again and again and again. I've built this with the departments that I've run personally, but I've also done this with clients that I go in and I work with. My first measure that I look for is when within 2 weeks, if I don't see smiles on people's faces, I know there's something much more fundamentally wrong than what I thought it was. So I had a client this year in 2015 at the start of the year, and that's what I looked for. When I first went in, people were just miserable. You could see it on their faces. You could see it how they interacted. One team, we got starting to do stand-ups because they refused to, and they would just stand there, and they looked like they hated being there. So I go in and I start working or talking with people and just listening to them one-on-one. I just started having conversations with them. And then sometimes it would be like 2 or 3 people at a time. And they just started opening up, and I started finding out what do they love about their lives, about their families, what do they love about their work. And within 3 weeks, it was a totally different landscape. They were happy, they were engaged, they were laughing and joking around at these stand-up meetings, and they're actually working together. But it's because I invested that effort in listening to them and hearing them and connecting into them a reminder about what it is that they're joyful about. So if our work is not involving or fun or exercise or creative instincts, what are we doing? Find a way to make that happen for yourself and your team, or find another place to do that. I don't often advocate for people to just leave their jobs, but I see what I kind of call zombie nation walking around. People are just kind of dead to the world, and it's just like heartbreaking to see that. So part of my mission is to help ignite joy back in people again. That's my mission when I go in to work with people. That's partly why I work a lot with leaders, because I want to help them learn how to do that with their staff so that we have happy, engaged, alive, fired up people again. Because that is how the world will change for the better. But you have to start inside and creating that space for yourself so that you can create that in the organizations that you work in, and as well as your communities. Richard Branson says this too. If you're waking up and saying, oh God, I've got to do this today, stop and consider, why are you doing it? Or find a way to make it engaging or fun for yourself. So, I think this is your last year opportunity. What brings you joy?
Obviously, this conference.
This conference, awesome. Brings me joy too. I love this conference. Who else? What brings you joy at work? Yeah. Oh, or you know what? I'll take it back. What brings you joy? Pardon? Joking around with your colleagues. We need humor and fun and engagement. Yeah. What are you going to say? Learning new stuff. Awesome. I'm going to give you a couple more opportunities. What else brings you joy? Being part of a team. Awesome. Playing games. Standing on a stage. Cool.
For me specifically, we have a great team, not only for the conference, but also the conference. And when I came here, and I see that take this idea and develop it, and then you go further, then I go, it's amazing. See that this happens on training, not Ghana, it happens on conferences, this is, for me, the best.
Awesome. Thank you. So these are the 7 principles. I could have chosen like 24 principles. There's so many things, but these are the 7 I chose today. So listen deeply. It's all about the people, no matter how you look at it. The people are always first. If you focus on that, everything else falls into place. Be addicted to learning, be of service, flow through change, move through your fears, and follow your joy. I don't care if you're an Agile team or just an individual walking through the world. These things, if you follow them, they will change your life. They've changed mine personally tremendously. Another Richard Branson quote. So I like to do this too. I set myself huge, apparently unachievable challenges. One of them, for me personally, is I'm going to be releasing a book in the spring, which is a very personal, serviceful project that's completely outside of the software domain to help women to heal. Because I think that there's a lot of healing work to do in the world, and anything I can contribute to that, awesome. So I'm going to leave you with this. The only one stopping you from being a great leader is you. You don't need anyone else's permission. You don't need a title. You just need to show up and be yourself, follow those principles or anything else that attracts you, and just be present and try to espouse yourself to be the best leader that you can be so that you can help your company to be more successful, but really so that it's happier. If you follow the joy, follow the happiness, everything else, including success, falls into place. So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to speak with you.
Questions? Do you have questions? Any questions? Okay. Thanks so much. Okay, one question. Okay.
How do you say in a nice way you fucked up to a CEO?
You fucked up. No. Well, one thing that I do is I go in and ask them questions. Say, so I noticed that, we had some challenges here happen, some problems came up. What did you notice about that? How do you feel about it? Are we on the right track? I try to ask questions to see how they feel about it. Oftentimes, in my experience, they know that they fucked up. They just don't admit it to people, and they don't talk about it, right? And that's part of this, creating this culture of listening and learning and safety, is that we need leaders to start stepping up and be vulnerable and admit to the stuff that they've done that has been a failure. But it's okay. The magic comes in through the learning that happens after the failure. And that can't happen if we don't start talking about it. Thank you.
More questions?
Thanks, Selena. That was pretty awesome. Thank you very much. What's your take on self-doubt and in leadership? Do you think that it's often seen as a weakness? So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Self-doubt. That's been strong for me for many years. Yeah. I've learned that my self-doubt, I know for me and for most people, it comes from experiences earlier in our lives. Mine came from being severely bullied for many years. And I had to process and work through a lot of those things so I could start to release that and embrace who I am now without those stories holding on to me anymore. So I think it's a lot of an inner personal journey, and then recognizing that there's fear attached to that has nothing to do with reality now. The fear attaches to the past and something else that we've been through, and that when we bring ourselves into it, the now, that story's not real or relevant anymore. So then I just have to move through fear and do crazy stuff like jump out of airplanes or hold a tarantula. You don't have to go that crazy. I have, though, because it works for me. But, yeah.
More questions? Okay. Thanks so much.
Thank you.